welcome to Sonic Talk, episode 647, recording today, live, Wednesday the 9th of December, 2020. Lovely to see you all here. This is the podcast to do with music technology, the creation of music, the recording, the technical, the mixing, the performing, all things to do with the technology surrounding music. And we say thank you very much for you all for watching. You can catch us on Twitch, twitch.tv/Sonicstate. You can catch us on obviously YouTube Live. We stream to Facebook Live. I think we're also on a whole bunch of podcasts if there's an audio only, if that's the way you like to consume. We're actually on Spotify, Stitcher, Google and Alexa, and you can say, yes, Alexa, play Sonic Talk podcast. Let's see how many people are rushing to turn their Alexas off at this point. But just before we go, if you wanted to support us over on Patreon, we've also got a Patreon page, which is patreon.com/Sonicstate.com. Patreon.com/Sonicstate. I always get that wrong. But this is actually a little bit out of date. We've just posted some more content to do with the ALM System Coupe, some other patch ideas from Ed. There's a whole bunch of exclusive content up there. It's not just early access. In fact, most of the stuff is exclusive content there and will continue to be. And we wanted to keep it separate, so it had a little more value for all you folks. So if you fancy going to that, and you also, let me just find the other overlay thing. Yeah, head over to, we've got a Discord server, bit.ly/Sonic Discord will get you over there. There's actually a little Patreon private area if you're a supporter there, so feel free to do that as well. Anyway, that's all the plugging out the way. Oh, it nearly is. Actually, I should say we've also got support from Isotope, which is very kind. They've got a special URL. If you go to isotope.com/Sonic Talk and put the code Sonic10 in when you check out, you save 10% on all their products, and that is actually our very own landing page and very own code. So if you want to save some percentage on that, head over to isotope.com/Sonic Talk. And of course, that's all their stuff. That's all their award-winning RX8, Music Production Suite, Neutron, Ozone 9, the whole lot. And while you're there, you can check out all of their tutorials. They've got a ton of stuff over there. But with all that out of the way, let's say hello to our guests. And we'll start with Mr. Charles Chicky Reeves, because we've got another guest who we haven't seen for ages. Charles Chicky Reeves, chickyandcoco.com, in his mix lair in London there, where he's been doing a lot of mixing, I understand. How are you?
I'm doing very well. It's good to see you again. It's good to be back on. I don't think I've been, it's been about 3 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that.
It's been a
while. Yeah, it's been good. I've been mixing albums, mastering albums, and doing a big production project now for Chicky and Coco, which hopefully will be done in the next year. Well, I've had a lot more time this year. It's been a bit of a dumpster fire of a year, but but next year hopefully I'll be just busy enough that it'll take a little bit longer to finish the project. But so I've been very busy. It's been very good. And
I can see you've got your special name badge there, so that's just in case you forget who you are in the morning. That's fabulous.
I wore this because I thought it'd be quite funny. I've got a client I was telling once, like, I should do like they did back in the 60s and get a lab coat with my name monogrammed on it and the name of the studio on it. And just like a couple weeks later in the post, he had sent me this, and it's got, let me set my iced tea down. So it's got this, and then on the back, it's got like my old studio and everything on it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so he had this made for me. I thought, that's very sweet. I love this. Yeah, so it fits perfectly, and it's my official attire for the studio when on the days where I'm not just wearing pajamas.
Yeah.
Which there are a few days that are like that.
Yeah, well, why the hell not, eh? Why the hell not? Well,
exactly.
Lovely to have you. And we've also got Mr. Corry Banks, Modbap Modular. We haven't seen you for such a long time, Corry. In fact, it's so long, I'm pretty sure your beard has got longer and your synth collection has certainly grown. How are you, Corry?
These are the results of COVID quarantine. Just let the beard grow and get more sense. I'm good,
Seems
man.
about, that's like the world plan, I think, pretty much.
That's right. Yeah, it's good to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Well, Corry, you've been busy, man. You've not only have you obviously been doing B-Boy Tech Report, but you've launched your first modular. I'm going to play a little bit of your video because Modbap Modular released their first module. So you've gone into hardware, which
this
is
Corry,
really...
aka B-Boy Tech, and today I'm bringing to you Modbap Modular as we launch our very first product and the brand overall. So our first product is called the Per4mer.
So it's a multi-effects, a 4-effects performance effects unit, right? I won't play the whole thing, Corry. I'll let you do it because you're going to be way more adept at it than I am.
Yeah. So it's a multi-effects unit basically with performance in mind for Eurorack. Think Chaos Oscillator Pad or SP404, at least the effects section, or XY effects from the MPC or the Force. And so I got into performing over the last couple of years and getting out with, an MPC or the Force and Eurorack. And I started thinking about things that I would love to have in my rack. And so I designed this Per4mer. And so you have a delay, you got a reverb, you have a glitch or sort of beat repeat and tape stop. And you can engage those with the arcade buttons one by one, or any combination. They can all be engaged at the same time. You can latch them or momentarily engage them. And it also has a color processor. So the color processor is basically you turn on the color processor. There's 4 presets. Those 4 presets are classic 12-bit to add texture. There's an 8-bit lo-fi. Then there's saturation and wax, which is like a vinyl simulation. And then on top of that, it has a compressor with sidechain for ducking. So it's a pretty creative tool. Yeah, it's like 6 effects in one module.
So how is it going into the manufacture? Because it's always a lot more than people expect, right? Has it been a complete
always been
journey?
A learning experience? It's a super journey. It's been a learning experience, man. I'm fortunate enough to be around people that take pretty good care of me and kind of showing me the ropes and also just kind of obliging to my whims. Right? So I'm fortunate. So it's good. It's good. It's going really well.
Is it something that you kind of came up with as this is what I need? Because quite often a lot of people who first go into it are making something that they don't have and they want, right?
Yeah. That's really it in a nutshell. And so I started designing some things and keeping notes on things that I want to design. And it's all like, hey, if I was to do, for example, a sampler, I would do it like this, or I need this thing so I could stop taking so much stuff on to do shows with me. So it really was a matter of designing things out of necessity, and it became really fun. It's probably some of the most fun stuff I've ever done, and just launching the company and designing the module and actually bringing it to market. I've found that I've used every single skill that I've ever learned in my entire life.
And it's a perfect time for it as well, because as we know, we haven't spoken to you since way before lockdown, way before this whole thing happened. So I guess it's kind of seen you through those times when you've had to stay hunkered down, right?
Yeah, it definitely has. And we had some delays because I started working on it 2019, just before the summer, and that sort of stuff. And we just kind of moved through getting the design together and working with a couple of people. I had to get a developer and, kind of work with some of that stuff. And then we got into this space where the COVID restrictions started happening. And obviously parts and PCB boards that would from China, there was a huge delay. I was actually going to be ready to be able to show this at Super Booth, at least unofficially. I would have the prototype with me, but yeah, that didn't happen.
No.
Super Booth didn't happen, but I literally, I didn't have the prototype in the time that I thought I would have the prototype, so it took a little while, and a few months after that before I actually got a prototype in my hand, and we just kind of had to keep pushing. So it definitely has kept me occupied during the quarantine.
Yeah, I know. I can imagine. This, as we know, this has been a very taxing time for all matters. We're fortunately, well, I don't know what we seem to be on the other side of the second wave in the UK. I don't know. I always find it's best not to talk about that too much because you get a lot of people who disagree that it's a thing, and I don't want to get into all of that. It's just a waste of breath, really. So anyway, well, let's start with a few things, right? So let's start with this. Oh, well, I started with that. Actually, there was something breaking, which this just came up, which is actually quite pertinent. The Elka Aloha. Elka make that board, which is supposed to run the sort of world's fastest audio operating system. And this is sort of Pi hat with a dedicated hardware that allows you to create, now, if I remember correctly, it's kind of very high speed, low latency collaboration, and they've just finally released the image of this, which I know is not exactly well, what is it? What am I looking at? It's this that I was looking at. It's not exactly ready, Q2, but I just thought I'd throw that in there for a quick additional bit. I know it's not on the topic list, but it might be something that will help, because this is one of the things that, anybody who is doing music at the moment, I mean, this real-time collaborative stuff is still just not there, and we do talk about it a bit. So if you want to check that out, if it's alohabyelk.com, I'm going to post that in there. I'm not expecting any comments unless anybody's. Have you had a look at any of this? I mean, because some of this stuff has been around. I guess would this make sense for anything that you're doing? I guess if it can do the same sort of thing as the what's the audio plugin that we use? Listen to, yeah, or
audio movers. Listen to,
yeah.
It's funny because I use that every single day. Almost all the work I've had since the first lockdown, has been via streaming. I mean, originally I was like streaming to a private YouTube channel, and then maybe I should open one of those OnlyFans channels. Anyway, but this that sounds great. I because the listen to receiver part, which is the other direction, doesn't quite work for me. I haven't quite gotten it to where it's usable for me. But the nice thing about the listen to thing is I can at least, because I'm working with people who are in studios in California or wherever they are, I'm listening to a live stream and I can go, let's change this about the bass tone or whatever, and then they can print that and then send me the file, and then I'll continue my work on it. But yeah, if this actually really works bidirectionally really well, then I'm all for it.
Q2 2021, unfortunately, Corry, so we can't have it just yet, although there'll be. I mean, have you found it, because I mean, obviously you've probably been working at home a lot. I guess you would have previously been on the road a bunch, for day job and performing and all that sort of thing. I mean, have you found you've discovered new workflows and ways that technology has enabled you to carry on doing what you're doing?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you find that there's a lot more people that you might collaborate or work with that, everybody misses performing somehow and working with other musicians. So then that's kind of the rise of Twitch and stuff like that too. But yeah, if this is the sort of thing that can allow people to work together in real time, that's brilliant. It kind of brings you to the place where I think voiceover artists have been doing similar things like this, but then they have to spend lots of money on, ISDN lines and all kinds of stuff to make that kind of real-time change. But yeah, if this is like a solution, I think that's brilliant.
It's really interesting. ISDN is still specified with a lot of voiceover houses and studios, and it's almost like they almost now seems to be used as a barrier to entry. Because I've got a friend who's just been doing really well on like casting extras and sort of film extras. He gets cut, but as he's seen more and more on set, people are sort of going, "Oh, you got an interest? Would you be interested in voiceover work?" But that to join that world, you almost have to spend that $2,000 on the ISDN box and the fixed line, and it's just crazy. That's just for audio. It's really not necessary these days, and but it's like almost like you can't be in the club unless you do that.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
They're like, this is our standard. We must. You cannot come here unless you do that. And interestingly enough, on the block that I live on, I have two neighbors who are actually pretty well-known voiceover artists, voiceover actors, and they have all of that stuff. And it's weird to me because from an IT perspective, it's old technology, really? But it's a standard in the really old, but it's a standard in the voiceover community and industry. So it's interesting.
Yeah, well, that ISDN audio codec box, I mean, I remember we used to, back in the day, if somebody needed a mix real fast, we would go over to Realwood Studios because they had, like, in the machine room, they had an ISDN two-line system. So we could play the DAT that would go AES into the ISDN codec, and it would get recorded at the other end, and the mix would be delivered sort of in real time, and then they could take that and master it. I mean, I only did it a couple of times, but it was... I mean, just thinking back, it's just crazy that that's even a thing. You know, I mean, bonkers. Yeah. Bonkers. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in there. But, okay, well, let's go to this one. This is Reverb. I've announced their yearly sales. I'm so sorry, I couldn't get who this lady was in the video. I've not seen her before on Reverb stuff.
Used and new synths. The top sellers are usually...
But she doesn't get a name check.
...and what you'd find on retailers that just sell new products. So this year, we're going to go category by category to show what was hot in the synth world. It was a crazy year in many ways, and we saw a huge surge of people buying instruments, from stuff that makes sense for folks picking up a new hobby or staying creative during this year-long snow day we've all had. So let's begin with the most popular used synth. The OP1 usually shows...
Yeah, this is an interesting thing. I'm so sorry, I don't know who she was, and I wanted to give her a name check, but it doesn't say in their own video, so it's kind of a bit hard for that. So yeah, these are the charts. So we've got the overall best-selling synths. Teenage Engineering OP1. That's really interesting, isn't it? That's really interesting. Electron, and then a whole bunch of Korgs. Arturia Microfreak, Behringer obviously coming further up the chain, but I mean they've been making synths for less time, so I suppose. But this is a mix of new and used. And then we've got the drum machines, Volca Beats at the top, Electron Digitact, Electron's doing really well, and then vintage synths, modulars, Make Noise Maths at the top. Make Noise always do really well in the Eurorack stuff. I know they must sell a ton of stuff, because their modules are kind of, you know, if you're going to start a modular, it's fairly likely you might have one of their modules, I think. And then ALM, and then vintage synths. Look at this. Juno 106 and DX7 at the top of the list. I mean, that is... Wow. I don't know what to make of this. I'm going to come to you, Chicky, first. It's really interesting, because it's not possible to know whether people are selling them because they're sick of them, or because they want to buy something new, or because, you know, what the driving force is. It's kind of hard to decipher that, I guess.
Yeah, there's a logical fallacy that's called, is it survivor bias, I think, where, like, just because Teenage Engineering, I mean, I love the OP1, so I've got one, love it, absolutely, and the OPZ. But just because something's selling does that really make it like the number one synth? Because if they're selling those and they're mostly used, so that mean people hate them, and so they're...
That's what I don't know. I was wondering. Really.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I was kind of pleased that on their list I've got I think 4 of those. So I've got the Juno 106, the OPZ, the Volca Beats. Is the mini log on there? I can't remember.
Yeah, number 3. Coming in at number 3 on the top selling synth chart. I should have a jingle, shouldn't I? I'd have a music bed under this, really. Oh, well, got all these bloody cookies.
Tell them what they won, Nick.
Yeah, tell them what they won. So yeah, top 5, Teenage Engineering, Electron Digitone, which is interesting, because that on the face of it, in terms of launches, that I don't know that it didn't feel like it did as well as one would have thought. But Electron Gear is up there. You know, a lot of Electron Gear has been really pushing the kind of envelope of performance and sequencing stuff. Then we've got Volca FM at number 4, Korg Minilog, Korg Monolog, and then some Mother 32, Microfreak. But yeah, so there's some interesting charts. So Korg are killing it in terms of the top brand. But I suppose they've perhaps got the most, and I think also a lot of their stuff is kind of gateway synth. So you might buy a Volca as your first go and then sell it because you want something perhaps with more features. I mean, their entire ecosystem's based around Volcas, I guess. Yeah. I don't know, what do you think, Corry? Have you got any of these? I can see you probably,
Well, I do have, I have the OP1 and the OPZ. in this case. And you know what? I hear a lot of talk about it too. Certainly in the beatmaker community. I mean, the both of those two are huge. And at some point, the OP1 was not available. It wasn't around. So when people see them for sale anywhere, they just hop on them, regardless if they're $200 or $300 more than the actual retail price or whatever it might be. And of course, we've seen those rise in prices. So yeah, definitely think you can make an argument on either end of the spectrum to say, well, are they the most popular if they're selling, or obviously if they're selling, somebody's buying. So, right?
This is the stuff that nobody wants anymore, right? You could say that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So,
but that OP1 does keep its price.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I think the OP1 when I bought it, it was $850 US, and now it's what, $1,200, something like that. So it's insane.
Well, they released they did a new production run, didn't they? Which was it was a little bit more, so it was also a price increase. But it's interesting. Anything in there that you were surprised at, Corry?
I don't know. I think I'm surprised at any of the vintage stuff, just because the prices on those things are going through the roof. Like, I have to say, I'm not really surprised at the smaller items that are on the other list, just because this is really like a desktop market nowadays. It feels like, you know how in the housing market, it's like, it's a seller's market, it's a buyer's market, but it definitely feels like it's a desktop synth, that, small format drum machine and synthesis for the market, where, it's a thing almost like modular, where people have a whole desk full of, Volcas, or a whole desk full of teenage engineering things, and looking for more mixer compatible stuff, or little mixers that they could plug all of that stuff into it. So yeah, I wasn't too surprised with the smaller stuff. And I also would imagine that stuff kind of goes around, where it's like gateway stuff, like you mentioned. I'm going to buy this little thing, that little thing, this little thing, and I love it. Oh, but I want to upgrade to this because, you have a Korg Volca, and then Korg comes out with the wave state or whatever it might be. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that kind of changes things up. So it's interesting.
And the OP6,
which actually arrived just now. It's interesting that I think one of the things that is interesting about it is that what you said about the desktop market, in the same way that everybody has been, obviously sitting at home, and now they've been extending their micro properties, like rather than move to a bigger house, what we do is we build an extension, or we put a roof over the yard, or whatever, all of those things. And I guess the extent, because property is ludicrously expensive, so desktop kind of makes sense from a socio-economic kind of psychology point of view, which I hadn't really thought about. Some of the other ones in here but I was Juno 60 average use price $2,500. That's really interesting. That is expensive. Wow. And the Juno one is, but what it also seems to indicate is that the reboots, actually there's not much that's rebooting here that been made by Behringer or by Roland, I guess. The D50, I suppose. That is a reboot. Is the what, sorry?
Is the monopoly there at all?
No, not at all. But I wonder if it's also down to the fact of how many of these things were originally made, because these are all reasonably mass-produced things, aren't they? There's nothing in there that's Suzuki Omnichord. I mean, what? I mean, wow. What's that there for? That's bizarre. I mean, how many does it have to sell to get to number 15? I'm guessing not all that many. I mean, it's not really in the hundreds, is it? Surely. I don't know.
Well, even like how many, not to keep the conversation on the OP1, but like how many used OP1s are flying through there? It's just kind of it's a very hard metric. I'm not really sure how they came about it. That said, though, I like the video, and it was very interesting, and
That's a good one. So hold on, I just want to Bazwax Hertz in the YouTube channel. Better off with the OAP one. I like that. Good bit of punnery there. Nice work.
Yeah.
Well, and to be honest, in terms of music tech, I mean, what is it? 10 years plus old now? Is it? Must be getting on for that. That's quite old for new technology, and the fact that it's still considered very desirable and is a digital instrument. It's not like the DX.
It's weird. It is of. I mean, I've off camera. I've got a bunch of synths and stuff. And in fact, I counted them. I've got 28 synths in here. Hardware synths. But OP is my favorite. It's by far. It's my favorite. It's the one I use for everything. That
seems to be
Moonweed sound that's on it. Oh, I love that sound, and I love the way the drums quantize on there. It's just really nice.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I
see Corry's fondling his OP one. He's got a mod.
The thing about the design, right? I mean, like, this is a very sleek design. I think if you didn't know much about it, it would be desirable just because, wow, that is eye candy. And I switched the knobs on mine. See, just to.
Is that because they
grabbed something off camera?
Is that because they wore out?
No, actually it didn't. I just kind of like immediately was like, I want different knobs. I kind of wanted something a little more taller, and this is actually, I like these are rubberized. But yeah, the design.
Isn't this what it's supposed to be like?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. I've got one of those as well. Actually, I must remember to take the batteries out of it so it doesn't.
First synth. First synth. I bought it brand new for $50 from a Skaggs Alpha Beta, which is a chain of grocery stores in the Southwest in the United States.
Cheers. Thank you, Wagyu. Wagyu's contributing to the Christmas drinks list. That's very kind of you there. Anybody else who feels like it, super chat or stickers in the chat room is always welcome on YouTube. Now, before we go any further, I also want to say that there will be a Christmas quiz this year. I'm working with MIDI-Era, a guy called Chris, who you might know as MIDI-Era. He's made some hardware stuff and some Max for Live devices, and he said, do you want me to do some questions? And we're just working out how that's going to work, because we did it last year with a leaderboard and everything. I've refined the system because it was frankly really didn't work quite mathematically, but I've worked on the maths, so we'll have a leaderboard and everything. So that'll be on the 23rd, the last Wednesday before Christmas was the 23rd. So I think on last year we had a really big break because of the way that Christmas fell, but this year it's going to be the day before Christmas Eve, so we'll be doing a Christmas quiz. I'm not quite sure. I'll put but stay tuned for all that sort of stuff. Anyway, if you want to peruse. Actually, before we go, top synths by brand, order volume: Korg, Roland, Yamaha, Moog, Behringer. So I guess all the usual suspects, I suppose. I don't know whether or not these graphs actually signify. They do seem to. Yeah, top new synths. So Behringer heading for top spot, unsurprisingly, because they make so much stuff. Teenage Engineering. That's really that's new.
They have pocket operators and things like that too. So those sell like crazy, I'm sure.
Well, volume, I guess Korg would be volume as well. If it were US dollar amount, it might be a different graph, I suppose, because a lot of those.
Korg is killing it. Korg is absolutely killing it. They haven't put out anything. They haven't put out anything.
Good Lord, 50? Are you sure you typed that in right, Technomadic? That's crazy.
That is very sweet.
Whoa! So that's a pint each. Whoa. Wow! Technomadic, Simon Forsyth, top chap. I hope to see him again. He's visited Sonic Towers before. That's very kind of you.
Oh, Simon. Yes, I know Simon.
Very, very kind. And yeah, wow. I don't know what to say. I feel like I should do a dance or something, but I think I'll spare that. Right, let's get on to something else. Let's take a look. Oh, yeah, this is product news. Big product news out yesterday. So, Arturia V Collection 8. We've got 4 completely new synths. The June 6 V, which is obviously a Juno 6. D, maybe 6D, yeah. And this is the intro part. We'll let this play because so there's a new vocoder, which is and a new emulator 2. And what else is there? I've got the list here. OBXA. So 28 instruments now. So this is the big release. Here they come, 4 new instruments. Jun 6V, vocoder V, OBXA V, of which emulator 2V. So I guess this is one of those kind of calendar type things that Arturia kind of do regularly. I mean, they've been on fire recently, and I have to say I've not really used many of their V instruments all that much. I use the Analog Lab a little bit. But when I was testing the M1 Mini, which is sadly boxed and ready to go over there, sadly it's going back to Apple tomorrow, I tried the Jupiter 8V because Alex, Milo Melody, said, oh, try that, because that demands quite a lot of CPU as well, because I was instructed to use Diva. A lot of users on their Patreon said, oh, yeah, try Diva on it, because that's a hog. And I'd not played with it in a comparison, and it sounded really, really good. I mean, it was massive, and quite rightly so. So this is kind of big news. I don't know if, I guess, I know, Corry, I mean, I know you're very much in hardware, but obviously some projects require repeatability. Have you got the V Collection? Have you got some of their stuff?
I do have the V Collection, and I tend to upgrade. I don't use it as much as I used to use it, that I've gotten more hardware since. But, I mean, it comes in clutch, right? You just never know. And their emulations sound absolutely wonderful. I mean, there's no way around it. I haven't really heard anything in their batch that doesn't sound great and kind of pull you in. And also for me, you know what it's done is it keeps me from lusting after certain things, because you can get such a good representation out of it, and the vintage aftermarket is so expensive, and these things are really well done. They really put a lot into it.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I mean, it's interesting because when the early virtualizations came out, we were sort of below the threshold that made it possible technologically to sound good, and they looked great, but they did. And many emulations back then didn't sound that great. But now, whatever they've been doing, they sound. I mean, I'm talking a lot of years ago, but in the early days. But now they really seem to have kind of upped it. I know, Charles, you're a fan, right?
Mm-hmm. I am. Yeah, I've got I've got their synths and stuff too, but I started on the V Collection, I think, when it was the 3rd version. I'm up on 7 right now. I haven't upgraded to 8, and the only reason I haven't is because I cannot seem to get their website to respond right now, because I think because this is just released and everybody's downloading stuff. Maybe that's what it is. I'm not sure, but the thing that excites me the most about this is the emulator, and the reason why is because that was one of the first samplers I ever had, and it's the stock library that they had that went with it. I know I could load some of it into my Kurzweil. I've got, the WAV files and stuff, but just to actually have it sounding like it came out of the emulator too, that's to me worth the price of admission. And I think it's the upgrade is what, €199.
Yeah, I think it's
or dollars.
Euros, yeah. So it's a chunky one, but it's got 4 instruments.
But you get so much. You get so much. But even though I do have a lot of hardware, since I do find myself, like even today, I was mixing something and somebody asked for like a very 70s kind of sequence-y sort of thing. So yeah, I used the 2600. It sounded like immediately. It was immediately what they wanted. Yes, this is the sound. And I use I have a Rhodes in the live room, but I use their Rhodes because it sounds great. It's
lighter.
Easy, Yeah, it is like I used to lug that Rhodes around with me to gigs. Actually carrying that and a Vox AC15, and now I can't even. I struggle to lift that thing at all, just to put pads under the legs so they don't dig into the floor. It's very difficult to carry. But this, the Arturia one is much easier to carry.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless, of course, you're using a supercomputer in a massive flight.
Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it, Corry? I mean, the stuff. The other thing, I think that what they've also done here is they've updated Analog Labs, so you get more macros and that kind of stuff. The other thing that's kind of interesting is because we've just had the whole, and we didn't talk about it, but the Behringer swing versus the keystep, and then here come Arturia with their software emulations, which is in the finesse of the argument. If you're just taking bullet points, it does seem a little bit challenging to kind of argue on either defense based on that. But I guess it's all.
What is it? You either cloning hardware or emulating software, and is it really that different, right? Like that's an interesting point. But I will say, you know, what's interesting? Is it me, or do we see the V Collection more often? I feel like they used to be every couple years, and now they're like clockwork. Every year, you tend to get a new V Collection, because I've had those for a long. Yeah. And so it's cool to think that, but I'm wondering, like, wow, they're really getting aggressive, and you know, to think about right now, they're probably figuring out at some point what's going to be the next thing. They probably have a list of things that they're going to include.
I mean, I think the thing is they've basically been really successful. You know, they made a load of money, so they've got money to put back into investment and new products. You know, because most of the stuff they've made, I can't think of anything that's been a dog. Maybe Drum Brute. I mean, and that I'm not saying it was bad. It's just maybe not as successful as some of their other things. You know, I don't know. I don't know if that's even right.
Drum Brute Impact. I love that thing. That thing is great. Yeah. But I guess the regular Drum Brute didn't have like the drive on it and stuff, I think. But yeah, I mean, I think they made that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What was that?
Oh no, I was saying that the Drum Brute, the original Drum Brute, there was a lot of people that were not really in love with the kicks on the Drum Brute, but the Drum Brute Impact kick is otherworldly.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it is fantastic. What have they made? They haven't made a bad. I'm looking at like 4 different things they made. I can't think of anything they've made that I haven't liked. I had problems with one piece of kit, but then they fixed it so fast. Where I was like, their customer service was unbelievable. It was really responsive, and you know, so
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's what happens when you've got all those resources at your demand, you know, at your disposal. You can start to do that kind of stuff. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, as I'm sure you're aware, you know, the little guys, it's like, how do you deal with returns? What are you supposed to do? You know, I mean, obviously you try and be as generous and as reasonable as possible. But sometimes, you know, when you've got massive scale, you just go, yep, here's another one. You know, I mean, I guess, but right. smaller stuff, you've got to build that stuff into your business model, and it's tough. I mean, you know, and I guess they're one of the big guys now because they're software and hardware. They must have the largest product range of any manufacturer outside of Behringer, possibly. I mean, I that is a complete guess. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe so. Gosh,
we have a lot of stuff. They're cleared.
Anyway, right. Well, I just wanted to throw that in there. Sorry, I did throw this shot up, but I haven't actually lined it up properly. It looks terrible. It's my Kojak. It's the Kojak one. You know, it's the sort of, you know, I'm going for the hey, but it hasn't worked out right. Okay, so what else have we got? So we got a little bit more. Holiday project plans. I mean, there's not really anything to play for this, and I wondered whether I'd gone a bit too early because it was Christmas. And because we've still got a couple of shows yet left before, but and it's kind of weird considering this whole year has been kind of a holiday project, right? So in many ways, because we've had some of us have had more time on our hands than others, perhaps. I mean, that's not the same for everybody. I agree. Anybody got any plans for holiday projects? I don't know if there's, you know, while there is maybe some downtime, I don't know. Have you got anything on that you're thinking of wanting to do? Design some new modules maybe, or I don't know, spend more time with your synths?
Well, yeah, no doubt. There's some new modules I'm actually working on that, you know, we're going to start up here soon to kind of fill out the offering, the line. But you know what I do have, since doing this entire Modbap thing and fortunate enough to build a community behind it of people that want to combine modular synthesis and hip hop, we have a compilation project coming out. And it's been a bit delayed because, you know, I have to be able to have the time to do the administrative stuff behind that. But we have something like 20 submissions. So it'll either be one big project or it'll be 2, you know, regular size projects.
It could be a double album, like a concept album, right?
That's right.
Gatefold.
Right. Exactly, they'll fold out and everything.
Yeah, well, you'd have 2, wouldn't you? You go 2, so it'd be 3 wide. Yeah, wow, yeah.
That's right.
One day.
Classic. Yeah. So I gotta get that done.
Oh, excellent, Charles. What about yourself? Just maybe time off.
So is it? Are we working on like holiday music projects?
I don't know.
Just during the holidays.
I guess
because I can't. I don't remember if I mentioned this pre-show or during the show, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself. But so I am doing this project. It's a Chicky and Cocoa project with other people, and that's basically all I plan on doing starting tomorrow up through January 5th-ish, somewhere around there.
Wow.
So yeah, that's my thing. I'm just bringing in social distancing. We're all quarantining. We're all being safe. But I am bringing in the necessary musicians to put this project together. So it's sort of like a lo-fi hip hop meets sort of jazz and a bit of soul, but it was strong on melodies. That's they're songs. They're not just tracks. So yeah, so that we're doing a full album of that kind of stuff. So yeah,
Excellent.
We'll see if it's done in time.
Well, I mean, speaking of albums, I know Andy's been working behind the scenes. He had the idea of doing like a Sonic Winter album and getting all the contributors, which I know he's been emailing you. I've been kind of leaving it up to him because it's his project. But I'm hoping that one of my what I'm going to try and do is contribute a track to that over the Christmas holidays as well, because I think we were aiming for a pre-Christmas, but that was just pretty unrealistic. So we're going. There will be. I don't know what it's going to be called. I don't know who. We've had a few in, and it's going to be great. Apart from my track, we'll probably have to. That's the problem when you've got all these professional people who could do these fantastic mixes, and then you come up with something that's maybe got 3 synths and an infinite reverb. There are comparisons are going to be made. There's nothing you can do about it. But that will be coming up sometime in the not too distant future, early next year. That's what we're hoping for. So that'll be good. But yeah, it's
well, I'm a big fan of your music, so I think it'll be a good addition to that.
Well, I hope I've got something that can warrant at least a couple of minutes. Okay, so while we're on the subject of Christmas, here's a thing. This is an interesting idea, actually. This is called Patch
TCG, the first card game for modular synthesis. Game might not be the right word, but it's a lot easier to say than a malleable set of tools for practice, learning, and inspiration. The idea came from watching friends and other modular enthusiasts patch with my own setup and make choices and use settings that had never really occurred to me to make, even with modules that I felt I'd essentially mastered. I thought...
Okay, so it's quite a long video, but it's just an interesting idea, actually. I mean, I guess it's similar in many ways to the concept of the sort of Eno cards, and there's been a few other things a bit like that.
I've got a set of those right here behind me.
I'm just trying to find the page for it. Yeah, Patch TCG. I think there are different cards. You get a abstraction, so like use only half of your modules chosen at random, turn every attenuator down by half for each connection, flip a coin, if heads, unpatch. Some interesting ideas there, Corry, and you're kind of into the world of modular. I mean, I think sometimes we do get a little bit stuck in our ways, even with modulars, this always goes here. So it's an interesting idea, right?
Yeah, it is a very interesting idea, especially when you get to a situation where I think for most people that start to perform out, you tend to make a case that's your performance case, and some things are pre-patched, despite the idea that this is modular and the idea of being sort of random or impromptu. But when you get into a live case, a lot of stuff is pre-patched, and you kind of know what that setup is. Or if you have another system there, you tend to get into those. You just kind of, I won't call it rut, but you get routine. Things become routine.
Yeah.
I patch this, I patch that, I patch that. This goes here, this goes there. I think this is a really dope way to kind of switch things up and disrupt your own sort of routine. And it may even be sometimes, I gotta say, I mean, even with modular, everybody falls into kind of creative weird spaces, whether it's a block or a rut. And you could probably use this to spark some stuff and get you out of your routine, or even just to get you start to patch and to hear something different. Because, for instance, I might have, like any one of us, I could give any of you this case in front of me, it will all sound different with it.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
The idea that there's something else that can tell you patch this way, where it'll be like hanging out with a friend and a friend says, oh, do this and do that. It's different from what you do. I think it's a great way.
I don't know if it's still there. I think Technomad, I think it's gone past. It says, where is the buy another module card? Which I think is absolutely valid, because that's probably I don't know, it's an interesting idea.
It'd be like Uno buy 4.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't
Yeah, I
like,
think it's a cool idea. I do use the oblique strategies, the Brian Eno one, quite a bit. I like things that do sort of shake stuff up. But the only thing is, I don't have anything really modular. I've got my Mo grandmother and stuff that has is semi-modular, but that's about it. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah,
well,
nothing
that doesn't
against
matter.
the modular world. I just haven't gone that direction. So
I think that's fine. I mean, one thing that I will say about this is, unfortunately, they haven't got any stock, and it's not coming till December the 23rd. So it's rather disappointing that you can't actually get it for Christmas. But January is traditionally the time when you have a low point, maybe creatively, and you kind of need a bit of a bunch of ideas going there. But it's a great idea. So it's just patchtcg.com is basically, I posted it in the comments. It should be timed to the way that it works here. Okay.
One thing about that, the patch TCG is what I think is cool, because I watched the video and they have a point where you could roll a dice, and if you number your modules, you could roll a dice and that'll tell you which module you should patch. But I kind of think that would be fun to play with friends when there's no social distancing needed, right? If you had to say group of 3 or 4 friends there, and you roll the dice and pick a card, and it dictates what you should do, and then the next person takes a time, and kind of see this collaborative patch come together with that card game as the driving force to it. I think that would be pretty fun.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea, actually. Not a bad shout. I mean, there's lots of ways you could use it, I guess. I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, modular is so extensible and so multifaceted. I mean, you could do kind of pretty much whatever, whatever you want. Okay, what else have we got? There's a topic up here. So, here we go. Let's see if I can find it. I think that's this guy. Ooh. So this was. I didn't know you could do this. So, anyway, I'll play it.
This is the path the tape takes around the drum. Now, as the tape moves around the drum during recording, the heads lay down a trail of magnetic patterns or picture information.
That was it, really. I mean, it's just, this was on Reddit, on Reddit synthesizers, which is always a great source of topics and just kind of general stuff. And I just didn't know that was possible. Make your own ribbon controller that easy. I mean, it's just the resistance between the 1 voltage and then the ground point making the connection. So you just have a constant, and there you go. And I just thought, wow, that's cool. Well, that was by somebody called NBiz Music. I couldn't embed the video, or there wasn't anywhere else, so I can't link to them necessarily. I suppose what this really started was, any kludges you can share, things that aren't supposed to work, or you didn't know could do that, that maybe you've got a kind of, I've got a piece of tin foil that I use on whatever, I don't know. Maybe while you think, I'll start, because mine was, I used to use it in my live set. BeatStep Pro has the 2 channels output, and what I did is I used the velocity output, so that I'd have a sequence of notes which would be CV controlled. Then I'd have a velocity output that would separately control the second oscillator's pitch. So you'd end up with it wouldn't scale very well, and you had to kind of find the right point. So you could actually dial in the velocity for each step, and that would tell you how far apart that second oscillator would be. It's not kind of what it was designed for, because it's not a MIDI CV and it's not scaled, but that was my kind of kludge for getting a kind of a duophonic voice out of a single BeatStep Pro channel. So I'll start with that. So then, I don't know, Corry, you've probably got something up your sleeve, even though your sleeves are rolled up and there's not much room there. They're very short.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Actually, I've seen something like that done. I want to say it was on Make Noise's IG channel. They tend to do really cool experimenting sort of things like that on their channel, to kind of tell you like, hey, this module can do this and that. So I actually have seen them do the ribbon controller like that. But I think for me, about the closest thing I've come is like, I noticed there's a buzz where there shouldn't be. I sampled it, and then I've taken patch cable that's connected and one end is not connected, to tap it, and I'll tap out drums and build drums from that sort of thing. And I remember doing this and kind of creating this entire track off of stuff that you shouldn't make tracks with, that kind of comes from tapping a cable or a buzz that's coming from somewhere. This particular instance, I did all that and built this track that I was so excited about, and then my system crashed. So I don't have it.
Oh man, isn't that always the way?
That's right.
There's a few here. Actually, if we go to this one, Orismatic has said blue tack over an enthusiastic module LED. That's quite a good one. Oh gosh, that's it. I don't know, Charles.
I was
You've
just
had enough time to think. You must have a list.
I
now,
got
surely.
nothing.
You got nothing.
I mean, I no. Well, I mean, I do a lot of stuff. There's nothing quite as amazing as this, though. That ribbon control is quite cool. But it's funny because what Corry was talking about just then about tapping out stuff. I remember I was doing a remix for somebody. This is for 1-2, which is Paul Humphreys, OMD Paul Humphreys, his old group. And I didn't like any of the drum sounds. I think this is a long time ago. So I was using Reason. Reason's good now. I'm just saying back then that was what I was using for this remix. And I didn't have any drum sounds that felt quite like what I wanted. And all I had was one of those, what was it, with the AKG mics, the sort of, it's bigger than a pencil mic, but it looks like a pencil mic.
451.
And it's got a small battery in it. No, it's got a battery in it.
Oh, okay.
But it's a long cylinder. I forgot. It's like the 100 or the 1000. Anyway, whatever it was.
C1000. C1000.
Yeah, C1000. That sounds right. Yeah. So yeah, all I had was that and one mic cable, obviously, and a little Pro Tools, the M box or something, whatever, the one that stood up strangely. And I just started doing stuff like, okay, I want a kick drum that sounds like this, and I just put it against my chest, hit my chest really hard, and it made a great kick drum. And then I started doing all the drums that end up being on that remix were just sounds that I just made kind of like that, sitting in the spare bedroom in my old house, and that ended up being the version that went on the album. I don't think they released their version. I think they just used my remix version on their album. It's the best drum sounds I ever had, and I still use some of those sounds.
Excellent.
Body drums.
Sample pack. Yeah. No, nice.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I forget who it was. I think it might be either Dave Spears or Mark Tinley who said what they used to do is sample hums and buzzes on a sampler, and during sound check would just randomly play them so that the sound engineers would have a real nightmare. They just go, "What's that?"
Yeah.
And then spend all ages.
Yeah. Oh, I did think of something, by the way, that's continuing on what my thought was, that I don't know if people have the resources to do this, because this was quite resource intense. So obviously I do a lot of live stuff. Well, not nowadays. I mostly do studio stuff, but because I tour a lot, I have access to PAs and things like that. And I had this whole bank of drum sounds that I really liked a lot, but I felt like they needed something different about them, and I tried things, like adding spatial reverbs to them, things like that. Nothing quite worked. So what I did is I took all 4,000 of these sounds and I ran them through a very loud PA system in a reasonably dead room, and mic'd up the PA, mic'd up the rest of the room, and then I took it all back, had it all on multi-track, and mixed all of those sounds together and just made like a stereo file, like even 808 kicks that have just a little bit of air on them. And the whole drum collection, it's one of the sort of things, if I'm programming something that's just very electronic sounding, usually the client is like, but what is it about something about these drum sounds? It just sounds different. It's like, I ran through a really loud PA.
That's a great idea.
Great.
It's almost like the difference between, going direct from your Rhodes versus micing it up through an amp. You did that with drums in a performance room, a theater of some sort. That's really dope. I bet those drums sound great.
I guess the trick is to sample multiple hits so that you get the round robin, because otherwise the same ambient triggered again and again and again, you start to make those repetitive. In fact, there was that I think it was last week or maybe the week before we talked about it, which was the new Trillium 1.5, the demo video for that, which was I forget the name of the two musicians, the Pocket Queen and I've forgotten that Greg I can't remember his name now, but they were in some studio in LA, and it was the Roo, and it sounded amazing, just because you've got the sense of the living bass, it was really alive, and it was sounding fantastic. So yeah, I totally would go for that. I'm just trying to think if we've got anything else. Did we have anything else in it? There was one other thing that I wanted to quickly throw up here, just purely because tonight at creativepassport.net, which is Imogen Heap's new project, which is the idea is that it creates sort of digital ID for music makers, and they're launching their beta tonight. There is in fact a launch video. She's doing this kind of launch show, which I'm going to try and get onto when I get back from doing this, which is the sort of they're launching the beta of it, and PPL in the UK, who are a big performance royalty collection agency, they're on board, and the idea is that basically musicians can sign up, have their own digital ID, which means that they can be easily identified and all the sleeve notes you can be in charge of yourself to say what you did, what you've worked on, what your skills are. It's a really good idea, and it's also, I think the idea in the end is also for helping track performance royalties and royalties for other things as well. I mean, it's a major project, but it's something I know she feels very powerful about. So if you check that creativepassport.net, big deal. I don't know. I mean, it's tougher in the US because you don't get performance royalties. You don't get, as a musician who performed on something, it's only writers' credits and I guess mechanicals for the label, not the other performers. It's a slightly different kind of mechanism, I believe.
Yeah, it's writers and mechanicals, and that stuff becomes really confusing, and especially when you get into the digital domain. So yeah, it can be a mess. But this sounds pretty cool.
Okay, interesting. Okay, cool. I'm just I'm just looking at a comment that says, "Please use Dark Reader so your screen doesn't blind you when you show links." Okay. Is my screen blind? Maybe it is. I'll look into that. Thanks for the tip. I wasn't aware that I was blinded, but maybe I look like I am. It's probably just because my glasses focal length is designed for these, and that screen is actually a little bit further away, so I have to squint. Maybe it's not the same thing, but anyway. I think that was it. Oh yeah.
Well, I was going to plug something actually.
Yeah, please do.
I wasn't actually going to plug in the traditional sense, because I have nothing to do with. I just want to say I have nothing to do with this company. I just bought the product, but I have no connection to them whatsoever. But I was telling you earlier there was this new plugin that I tried that I really recommend trying. In fact, you guys may have even covered this for all I know. It's by Korneff Audio. Do you know those guys? Have you ever heard of them before?
Korneff Audio. Korneff
Audio. I think they're out of New York, and they make a plugin called Talkback Mic, and it's just the greatest, absolutely smash it compressor. It's so good.
Wow.
Talkback Limiter. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Talkback Limiter. That's it. It's sort of like the Wolf compressor from Goodhertz. It's a bit like that, but you can do a bit more with it. And like just sticking that on drums, you can have a pretty awful drum sound, and you put that on whatever I like when I record drums, I'll do what I call a meat mic, and it's sort of just an omnidirectional mic just right above the kick, sort of next to the floor, the rack tom, and just put it on that, and it brings the drums out. Oh my God, it just sounds so good. It's so good. And you can control the amount of saturation. You can control like the neo. It's like if you click on the logo on the plugin, it opens up some more controls and stuff. And it's like, I think it's right now it's $39. Yeah,
it looks like it's the talkback section from an SSL, isn't it? Is that what it looks like? Yeah. I mean, it looks very much like that.
That's what it is. Yeah, it's modeled so well. It sounds so good. It's so good. I find myself.
Sorry, Corey.
Oh no, go ahead. No, you mentioned good hertz too, right? Like the
Oh, yeah, yeah.
the Wolf compressor.
The Wolf compressor.
If it's anything even nearly as good as the Wolf compressor, I already know that it's great.
Yeah, I love the Wolf compressor. I use the demos for it are usually with drums and stuff like that. But I'll do things like I'll use the Wolf compressor on like group backing vocals and just all kinds of stuff, and it makes things sit really nicely in a mix, and, and especially if you
I think
add
we
a
just
little bit
broke
of
the
wow
site.
to it.
I don't know we've got that many listeners, but maybe they all went there at the same time. But literally, it's now broken. But do try again.
Yeah, it is. It's like I say, it's $39, absolutely worth it. A good friend of mine turned me onto it just a few days ago, and I just listened to. There's a demo of it on YouTube that I don't think it's put out by them. It's some person who recorded some cover song or something like that, and the sound of the drums are not great. And then he just sticks it on this one mic and mixes it in, and suddenly it changes the character of the drums in such a positive way. So you go from this sort of drum sound that just kind of is, like a snare kind of boom, that kind of, which I can't stand that snare sound. But when he put that on the I think it's just the mono mic that he had in front of the kit and mixed it in, it sounded so good. I would go with just that one mic and screw the rest of the other mics. It's just that it sounds so good. And I've got so many things that I've recorded drums on that I'm in the process of getting ready for mixing, and I just thought I'd try it really quick on those. It's great. It's really fantastic.
I'm just trying this. Is this the one? Does this look familiar?
Yeah.
Just where this guy comes in.
Oh yeah, his baby's in the background.
100%
That's fun.
Let's see.
That's cool. I liked all those right where it's at for this.
Wow.
So let's listen in the context of the whole drum mix.
Oh yeah. It sounds like sort of Keepex Valley people just kind of like just brilliant. Yeah. I love effects compression. I really do. And I'm a sucker for it, and I really have to watch myself because otherwise it's just over everything really loud. Well, we broke their website. I can't believe that's the first that's happened. That's awesome. Well done, Chicky.
Success.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, we broke their website. That's going to be the show title, I think. I think.
Good job.
Yeah, good job. Well done, Well done, listeners. Thank you very much. You should be proud of yourself. Excellent. Well, it just goes to show how effective a link can be. Wow. There we go. Well, it feels like we're at the point of perhaps time to wrap things up. I want to say once again before we go, see if we can break Isotope's website as well, shall we? I doubt it.
Yes.
Please do check out the 10% discount Sonic 10. Check out via the URL isotope.com/Sonic Talk, and that'll get you 10% with the Sonic 10. And you can save a bunch of cash on all of their products too. So I want to say thank you very much for them supporting the podcast. Always much welcome. Corry, lovely to have you. It's been a pleasure, and I hope your new modules are numerous and plenty and successful, as I hope the Per4mer has been for you so far.
I appreciate it, man. It's been good. It's been a good run so far and looking up. So, yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's always a pleasure.
You're more than welcome. And Charles, again, thank you very much. And I hope your Chicky and Cocoa project, which you start tomorrow, also gives you time to have Christmas, whatever shape or form that's going to be this year. Who knows? But I hope it works out.
Yes. Well, the main thing is, trying to end this, as I said earlier, a dumpster fire of a year, just turn it into a positive ending and get over that hump and bring on January. Exactly. Well, that's much appreciated. Just another quick plug for our Patreon just before we go. If you feel like you'd like to support us, patreon.com/Sonicstate will get you access to a load of extra content that you can't find anywhere else, and that's being updated all the time, every time we do a review, or most times we do a review. And a couple of things coming up. We've got a review of the RME Babyface, and I forget the UFX, plus the Alta Music Solar 50 big drone machine, and there's a bunch of other stuff besides. And if you haven't checked it out, check out Ed's ALM System Coupe review. But for now, Corry and
Charles, thank you very much. We'll sail off into the sunset as I press the end button. We'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching, folks. Bye-bye now.
Thanks, everybody.